Hello, everybody. Welcome to Candles and Coffee. Let me take a hit. Let me kill my cup of coffee. Doesn't get too cold. Today, I had the pleasure of talking to Marina Peck. She is an incredible human being, an artist, entrepreneur. She is absolutely phenomenal. She raised two amazing daughters. They are incredible. Actually, one of them went to school, elementary school, with my daughter. They knew each other before I ever got to know Marina. Marcella, her daughter, actually was born with muscular dystrophy. And Marina has been the most amazing mom. She got her wings, let's just say. She's incredible, strong, like I said, artistic, photographer, just an amazing human being and somebody who walks in an incredible world that very few of us will ever know. And so I've been very, very fortunate to have worked with her for many, many years. And for whatever reason, I've been able to see her and see her well. And it's been a very interesting life sharing it with her. She's deeply spiritual. She loves like meditation and chanting, and there's so much more I could tell you about her to try to unpack her and let you appreciate how amazing she is. But let me tell you what happened here. She came over to my studio and actually interviewed me. And what I love, as you will see, is that she did such an incredible job of, and I mentioned this, of helping me shine. And she was absolutely one of the best people that I could have ever used to interview me. I have this guy, shout out to Rick Party, who is the catalyst to getting me to do podcasts. He really said, Dr. Michael, you need to do this, And he's the one that really promoted this. And he said, after seeing my first episode, which he liked, he recommended that I get people that can basically tell people that I'm worth listening to. Well, Marina didn't know any of this. And she just came, and it's absolutely fascinating how well she hit the criteria that was necessary for me to be able to establish my credibility and things of that nature. I don't want to go into too much more. I think that was already too long. I'm going to just get right into it. Me and Marina Peck talking about a host of amazing, amazing concepts. I know you will enjoy this. Yeah, enjoy.
Dr. Michael, as he is lovingly known, has been a friend for more years, physical years, than I can probably remember. And the thing that really impressed me way back when I first met him was he possesses a sort of sparkle that is very contagious. Not only is it contagious, but it's one of the things that is kind of like made me question how is he doing that? And the reason why, when I was ready, not necessarily right from the beginning because of whatever issues that I was dealing with in my own life, but from the very beginning, there was an inquiry within myself. How does he do that? How does he maintain this sparkle, maintain this light, maintain this positivity, given all the circumstances that are out there? And I've come to realize now that sparkle doesn't come without payment. So here we are. Dr. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you,
I
Marina.
really am so honored. You have impacted my life in ways that you probably don't even know you have. This is not going to be emotional, but it is. And your dedication to the work that you have put forth really, truly does inspire other people. You stand for greatness. And I'd love to get into that more. But it's almost like giving people permission, me including, to be greater than our story, to whatever that story is that we're telling ourselves. And you may not even understand or realize how in your story you are, but just encountering you and just being in the presence of somebody who doesn't dwell in whatever we could dwell in, consciously or unconsciously, is it's like giving people permission. So humbly thank you for that. And you graduated from Life Chiropractics in the early 90s. And I think you're the only chiropractor that I know that doesn't practice chiropractic.
Well, I actually do practice chiropractic, but it's not the majority of my practice.
Okay.
I have people that I've worked with for so many years, and they won't. Just the other day, I had somebody said, "You are not allowed to die before me," is what he said. And he was like, you have no idea how much I look forward to these sessions, is what he said. So I still do body work. I mix chiropractic with Catalyst, which is my thing. But yeah, I kind of like having, what do you want to call it, like a menu of services.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can ever stop doing any one thing, but I'm more excited about what you just said is like, mindset and getting people's heads right, like optimal at least, if you don't want to go with right.
I'd love to get into all of that.
Okay.
Before we unpack all the things that, just very briefly, you are based out of Roswell, Georgia, and you've been here for many years.
93, so it's going on 31 years now.
Right. So there's an office space, and you take client, and you are basically what would you consider yourself? Seriously, I'm like facilitator, honestly, of the mind, body, and soul. I mean, if I have to work with mind, people like the word coach. I like talk thrivapy. I'm helping people thrive, and sharing these concepts and ideas and offering them for people to adopt and use for themselves and then watch what happens. But I also still love the body. I love body work. I love movements. I love stretches. I love positions. And I do love touch. I love growing in awareness, body awareness, as well as my own personal awareness, and then enhancing body dynamics or flexibility, malleability, neuroplasticity. And as you know, I'm a major fan of the spiritual side of all of that, the energy that underlies the most sacred and the sweetest and the highest, and to get in touch with that and connect to that. Yeah, I think that's definitely where we connect on such a deep level. And to speak to that just briefly, it's one of the sweetest things about this friendship is there are people that you can connect with, right? And everybody may know this, like, oh, I connect with this people, or I resonate with that person, or we're friends because of whatever. But to connect at that soul level, that energetic love space is, and be consciously aware of it, is it's beyond, like, it's just beyond. And I don't really know how to best describe that without people having their own awareness to that, so they have their own reference point to that. But it's been really an incredible gift.
I absolutely want to speak to that, because you don't know what it's like to be me and to be smacked into your presence. And I do. And so I know what it's like for me when I'm talking to a bunch of people, and I know the difference from when I'm talking to you. And so maybe I'm not allowed to ignore that, but it really is more of a recognition, like I see you, but you actually, like it or not, force feed me you. I can't not see you because of the way you resonate, such pure love. And even when you're struggling, the love is so evident, and I love watching you struggle because it's still the love struggling, and it's so beautiful to watch.
So for the listener, because this is a conversation about radical trust.
Right, there you go.
This is a great segue into that, because I have struggled. And one of the sweetest things, because you are my coach, one of the sweetest things that you said to me during one of the sessions is you always come when you're struggling and there's pain, but you came and it's different now. So there are other times that I like to
Let me speak to that, because this is really big. A lot of people don't know this, but when they think, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, then you attract broke. because your body really does, your energy, your life, every part of your essence wants to be in alignment with life, and life is about growth, and you need to grow, and you have to trust that life wants you to grow. And so if you're waiting for there to be problems before you'll address something outside of your own little status quo, whatever you're doing, you're going to attract problems, and that's a big issue. So if you can be proactive and actually address things, it's a position of strength. If you can actually work on growth when you're not in pain or you're not struggling, then that's an entrainment. And now you're not attracting pain in order to grow, which is a really huge for a lot of people.
It really is truly huge. So let's talk about this radical trust idea and, the pain, because I do agree. I do agree that, and I think you agree that most people do grow when there's pain, right? And one of the things that you've said to me is, even though on some level I might know that I might engage in something that will eventually lead to pain, you've said to me, I'm not allowed to ignore that. I'm not allowed to. So, help me to unpack that concept.
I will, and that's fair. I mean, that's almost karma. You help me make it where I'm not allowed to not see you. I mean, say people as they really are, not as you see them. Well, you make it really easy for me to see you as you really are, not just as I see you. And that's a big thing. And I can trust that. And I do. And I trust what you're packing. And I trust that, of course, you have challenges and great pain. Have you looked in the mirror? Have you seen anybody walking around like you, as you? No. Well, I know how this world is set up. It's not really, this world was never meant for one as beautiful as you. Starry, starry night, Vincent. And that really is true. And so when you're struggling, it's not unusual that the people who struggle are more likely extraordinary people who just haven't had extraordinary care. They haven't had their sovereignty, their uniqueness, their essence really nurtured, because we're so busy putting everybody in a box about what it means to be nurtured and supported, and then not really supporting the majesty of an individual. Well, you reek of that majesty. I can't not. How am I going to put you in a box when you don't put yourself in a box? You so clearly separate yourself from other people. And so I'm always glad that you work with me, because I know when you're working with me, I'm working with the extraordinary in you, and I'm not working with trying to make you ordinary or put you in some kind of ideal situation of what is success. You're going to have to define that for me.
So a question that I have, and thank you for that. Thank you for recognizing that, and, recognizing that in me, which I didn't even have words for. So I appreciate that. But I truly believe people are extraordinary. And I know you're from the same mindset. They have a greatness in them. What keeps people from even recognizing that they have that, even recognizing that there are other options, there are other versions of them that they haven't even explored, that they haven't even given themselves permission to entertain? What keeps them?
The integrity of their process.
Right.
See, I trust in the integrity of everybody's process, and that is a huge piece. And so this is the big piece about the integrity of people's process. It's awareness, it's clarity. And so what you talked about, everybody's extraordinary, that's true. But most people are extraordinary in a very unconscious or subconscious kind of way. They're not doing it consciously or mindfully. And that is because they're honoring the integrity of their process. As they do this kind of work, and I'm stimulating their prefrontal cortex and making them go to their higher mind, which is not the, obviously, as you know, the reactive mind or the autonomic mind. Who wants to be on automatic pilot? But when you're having these kinds of conversations, I'm actually ushering you to your higher mind. Well, now you're growing in awareness. So as you're growing in awareness, you're becoming more conscious of your participation in your being extraordinary and expressing your extraordinary abilities, rather than, we all know philosophically that everybody's extraordinary, but not everybody is conscious or mindful or awake. And that is a process. And I like to fuel that awakeness, if you will, or that awareness. And that's essential. And I can't do it faster than their integrity will allow.
And when you do work with people, and because you do that beautifully, I witnessed it. where does that come from? Where does the answer for you or the nudge for you comes from? How fast or how slow, how much or how little? Is it just by being the mindful observer of their process,
Mm-hmm.
or is it coming from someplace
Well,
else?
it's welcoming them and it's allowing them to really get in touch with their process and welcoming that process, how long it's going to take for them. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
really it. And I know that it will take for them, but I know they're not going to be able to grow faster than they're able to grow. But I also know that they can't resist growth either. They can't keep it too slow. We can always slow down our processes, and we do. But when you're optimizing your growth, and I know that everybody has that ability in them, but we're so distracted, and that's
Right.
not an accident that we're distracted. And so we're being kept from our greaterness. We are. And so what I want to do as an empowering, right, facilitator, I want to be a facilitator of empowerment. I'm going to constantly give people, you know, ideas that they
Mm-hmm.
can play with that is empowering, and it's going to stimulate their growth. And
Mm-hmm.
I trust that. That's the big thing. I think that that's a good segue to trust, is that I do trust in people. I do trust in the integrity of their
Mm-hmm.
process. I do trust that if somebody's not accepting a cookie that I'm offering, it's
Mm-hmm.
because it's not their time. It's not like, oh, Dr. Michael, you didn't present that properly
Mm-hmm.
because, see, they didn't accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're supposed to accept it just because I'm having it?
Right.
Like, let me force feed them this concept. And
Right.
if I'm not forcing it down their throat, shame on me. I'm not proficient enough. Now we're
Right.
getting into evil. So I trust the integrity of people's process. That's radical trust.
Right. And in terms of personal, so that is the way you work, that so many in your community, me including, absolutely love. In terms of the individual and trusting their own process, can we dive into a little, because it's a lot easier for some, life is great, everything is going well, all the stars are aligned, people are happy, it's easy to trust. It's not so easy to trust when in that integrity, when things are hard, or so can we go into on an individual basis for each person, so when they encounter whatever struggles they're encountering, and yes, we're going to trust that they're there for a reason, is there, like, what are some of the maybe key words or key situations or something that they can, not everybody has access to a Michael, Dr. Michael, not everyone has an, so what can people do, because so many people I find um, are looking to get out of that uncomfortable. They're like looking to just as quickly as they can shift their, do whatever, and they get busy, and they do whatever creative things. But we're talking about trusting the fact that they are where they are for a reason.
Mhm.
So what do you do, what does an individual do with that when they're in that place?
The biggest takeaway most people have when I talk to them for the first time,
Yeah.
their biggest takeaway is a triple star standard that everybody has to learn to adapt quickly. And insidiously, it has trust in it, but we're not really promoting the word trust.
Right.
But it is
Right.
without a doubt, it impacts more people most often, and it has some serious like shelf life. This lasts, and it's the most amazing standard ever, and it is be gentle with yourself.
Mm.
And so most people are being so hard on themselves, they're
Right.
being critical. When they look in a mirror, they're critical.
Right.
They're beating themselves up for things that they've done, and they're beating themselves up for things they haven't done. And it's
Yeah.
like, wow, you didn't get that memo that that's how life works. Is like, you can always improve. That's not an excuse to beat yourself up because you can always do something better. The idea that you can always do something better should be inspiring, not a reason for you to beat yourself up that you didn't do it as well as you could have. Well, that is a big problem in our society. And so what is the solution? Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with your process. And insidiously hidden in that is trust.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And in being gentle with yourself, we're not talking about like go take a nap, right? We're talking about
Self-talk. I mean,
becoming aware.
how you see
Yeah.
yourself. I mean, like, for whatever reason, we look at ourselves with a critical eye.
Yeah.
Stop that. And if you want to do that and feel like I can justify the reason I do that, that's great. But you sure better give the positive reinforcement equal time or more.
Right.
Because for all the negative that you're constantly feeding yourself, there's no encouraging words. You couldn't train an animal with just negative feedback. It's the yummy treat. You got to give yourself a yummy treat and give yourself some breath and give yourself a space to grow. And you're making your own inner environment very toxic for growth. So it's not a coincidence that you're not growing. So if you were to nurture yourself, meaning be gentle with yourself, you'd be surprised how fast you would grow under those circumstances.
And I understand that this is where the sweet spot is. What do you, in your opinion, with all the people that you've seen and that you've talked to and your own process, what do you think is that key for people to actually, is there a key for people to actually start, noticing how they're talking to themselves or the record that's going on in their head? What do you think is there a key for people to actually even to start becoming aware of that?
Oh, absolutely.
Themselves?
And it's actually a two-piece. The first one is you have to put yourself in environments where that's going to organically happen. And you don't have to talk to me to be in those environments, but you do want to be in environments where that's going to stimulate or organically be stimulated. And then realize that the most integrative improvements are incremental. Don't try to go too fast. If you lose weight quickly, you'll blow up quickly, right after it's over. So if you can respect the timing, especially your timing, the integrity of your process, and you work at it and realize that by repeating a process that's good for you, over time you actually earn it as opposed to entitlement. You could know what you need, but if you need to repeat a process like exercise before you're going to see results, so be it. But you got to be in it to win it. You play for the long game, and so you repeat a process because it's good for you. And it is going to take time, and you respect the integrity of that process. But there are certain environments that you can be in, and most of us, our work environment isn't that healthy. It's not going to support thriving or vibrancy or newness, creativity, inspiration, motivation, gratitude. But a lot of people are working for their salary and they're paying handsomely in a very toxic environment. We have to make up for that. And you have your own time. It's I need just to put my feet up and watch TV mindlessly or the news, whatever channel of news I want to watch. And it's that's not really the kind of self-care that you need to put yourself in to let the growth happen organically. You probably want to put yourself in healthy environments that are going to make you organically thrive, and then be gentle with yourself with however long it takes.
For me personally, I think I've really was able to witness when I did start to have those words, just be gentle. I couldn't figure it all out, but just to be gentle on myself. And then to start being the observer of where all the non-supportive talk was coming from. Once I became aware and paying attention to it, it kind of blew my mind. It really kind of blew my mind. So I don't have the TV on ever. I don't watch the news. And most people, I don't even get the news from the internet. I feel disempowered. I feel
of course
there are things that are going on in the world that I absolutely have no, there's no way that I can
You mean you're not keeping up with all the BS?
Right.
Imagine that. You're not feeding yourself toxicity, and you're not keeping up with things that are just complete BS anyway.
All I have control over is my immediate world, is so once I started to really be mindful to that and make decisions, it came down to making a choice.
There you go.
Do I want to continue to be a victim in a thing that I didn't even have a choice in creating? Or do I choose to not be that victim and empower my own self-talk?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And you're doing very well with that.
Thank you.
Isn't that lovely? No, it really is true, though. But you are. I mean, now, don't you find yourself telling better and better stories about your past? And don't you love it how these newer, updated, more mature versions of what happened in the past is now on the front burner, and it doesn't change the past, but it changes the way the past would affect you. So in the past would affect you negatively, more toxic, because we have immature interpretations because we were immature at the time. But now we're adults and we're growing. And so we can have a greater story, and that actually replaces the poor story or the toxic story, even though the events themselves don't change, but the effects of the past changes in complete honor of the stories we tell.
Yeah. So this is a great segue into past and into those stories and into things that we may have been involved in or participated in. And I do believe that I am a creator, so you make choices. That might be a hard pill for somebody to swallow, because there's questions that come up like, well, what about when you're a kid and you don't have a choice and blah, blah, blah. But everybody has a story and everybody has a past. And it truly does bring you to a place where you are right now so that you can pay attention. You speak to radical trust and, having situations that have been, because we all have them. We all have those stories that were difficult, that were hard. And in being gentle with ourselves and repeating the head talk, there is a place for that, right? We spoke to, there is a place for, there is a place for when these stories contribute to a certain wake-up call within you, right?
Absolutely.
And then you can wake up, and then you do have a choice, and then you are aware, and then you can make different choices, and you can go on with a different perception, or at least to try and start to create a different story for yourself.
There you go. Well, you say there is a place, and that's a great way to word it. That's beautiful, beautiful wording, because it's true. That's a form of sanctification or trusting in it, that it has its place. But more importantly than that, is that it has its purpose and its meaning, its reason for being. And once you accept that, that's huge. And even if you stopped there, you're so much better off than you were before acknowledging or conceding to the fact that not only does it have its place, but it has its reason, its purpose. And that's a form of trust and sanctifying it. Now you could stop there, and that's amazing, but I recommend not. Now tell me what that purpose or that reason
that's
is.
Huge.
Right? That is huge.
That is huge.
That's huge
for somebody to,
Right, to concede to that. Not
to
just acknowledge, because acknowledge is one thing, but when you concede to it, means you're a channel of it. You're letting it in. You're letting it through you, and now you're experiencing it. You're letting it affect you as nutrition rather than the toxin that you were channeling.
And do you find often that people sort of like they get into, okay, fine, they maybe somehow were able to get to that place where they recognize that there was a reason. You don't always understand. You don't always, do you need to understand?
It's actually more valuable to trust it when you don't understand than needing to understand to accept it. Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you are the kind of person that you need to understand something in order to accept it, boy, you're going to have a rough life, because there's going to be so much you're never going to understand. That's where radical trust really comes in handy, when you can trust that it has a reason for being and you don't understand it. So which is more valuable?
Right. Do you find that people can do that?
They do. You do it. I wouldn't say you do it all the time, but look, again, this is what's so amazing about this kind of, these are phenomena we're working with, right? If there is something that you're unable to trust, you're going to actually attract that into your life so that you can work on it for your growth. I mean, I really believe we're all going to this place, if we're going to grow through awareness, if we're going to become more clear and we're going to have clarity regarding life, we're going to have to accept life on life's terms, and we're going to have to learn to live unconditionally, like unconditional living, where it doesn't matter what's coming. We're not going to compromise our functionality. And the way you don't compromise your functionality independent of what comes is that you accept what comes. You welcome it. You unconditionally welcome it, and you acknowledge that it has a purpose, a place, a timing. Oh, you're right on time. You showed up. When you start doing that, you're going to enhance your functionality, and you're also telling the greater story rather than having an adversarial relationship to it, which puts you in war mode and fight mode. And now there's winner loser, and you're the battlefield. So you're already losing because you're playing in this win-lose dynamic, which is a loss for you because you're not going to win them all.
I do have to say that this is something that I still struggle with.
I know that, but it's only in
because-
certain situations. You don't struggle. There are things that you've actually overcome
Yeah.
where you have mastered that and you can unconditionally accept it. But there are areas right now that you can't. Well, that's your process. That's the integrity of your process. But here's a little, like, what do you want to call it when they say, don't tell me about the show? Spoiler alert. Here's a spoiler alert.
Yeah.
You will. You're going to accept those things that you cannot accept. You're probably not going to do it today, and that's okay, but you will. And you guess what? You're going to do it in alignment with the integrity of your process. And I trust that.
Yeah, that's really that's a lot. That's a lot for somebody to, because we don't want to feel yucky. We don't want to, so we and me including, people tend to get creative. My latest thing that I like to say is people get very creative to avoid looking at themselves.
It's true.
Very creative
And distracted.
We can justify it, and it's all very like great justifications. How all in the name of this is uncomfortable, and I don't really want to look at it.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, seriously, I know I'm going to open up a can of worms here, and I know we're not going to go into this in any detail, and it's okay, but I do want to put this out. That's why we work with archetypes, because it's like, which version of you are you advocating for? And if you're advocating for your greater version, you're going to realize you're not going to be able to entertain those awful thoughts that you organically entertain as you. But when you work with versions of you or greater versions of you, you'd be surprised how much easier it is to see things with newer eyes when there truly are not your eyes. So anyway.
Can you talk to what physically happens in the brain?
Well, I want to quote Plato, Socrates, Aristotle again, and talking about I am the smartest of all because I know that I know nothing. Yeah. It is in that level of meekness, of humility, that you actually become very empowered and you're able to handle anything. It's to the exact degree that you are absolutely certain that you know something, that life, as a natural consequence, it's a phenomena, it's going to bring you down to your knees because you actually believe you know something when you clearly don't. And even if you did, it's so fantastically incomplete that it's foolish to talk about it. Like you see the smallest little picture, but the meek will inherit the earth. And so we have to go to a place of less knowing, knowledge, and more awareness, perception, where you could feel and trust your instincts and trust what happens to you. Like when I'm with you and I feel what I feel with you, and then I feel that, and it's unlike being with anybody else. Not only do I trust that, but it's a representation of who you are because you're an epigenetic influence to me. You're affecting my energy. And I watch what happens to my energy when I'm with you. And I'm like, wow, I like being with Marina. Well, I pay attention to that. So am I having a reaction to my interpretation of you, my story of you, or the essence of you? And I propose probably all of that, but I know the essence of you is dominating my story of you.
That was a lot. That was a big topic as well. I kind of want to bring it down just a little bit to actually notice how things feel within yourself. If there are things that you come out of, let's say you're watching the news that leave you feeling depleted, or
trust that
and maybe find something else, like change your course. So I've been noticing more and more, like, what are the things that I do enjoy, and what are the things, like, okay, we know what we don't enjoy, we know what doesn't feel good, and yes, there is a reason for it, but then also making that choice and noticing, like, okay, I made this choice. And then watch how, because I really truly do believe that the world and the universe will meet you there, brings you more things that feel good.
It does. And it's like, and the bigger thing that you're saying without saying it is how important it is to renew your vows to that choice. Because if you just say it once and you think the universe is going to give it to you, and it's like, that's entitlement. It's like, if you're going to be on this path and you really want to be on the path to peace, and you say, I choose the path to peace. But you need to know that 98% of what's going to come at you is not going to be peaceful because you chose to be on the path of peace. But then there's that little 2%, that little sliver, that's going to make you, oh, I thought you wanted a path of peace. I did. I chose the path of peace, but now I got all this pain and this disturbance. It's like, oh, you wanted it given it to you? I thought you said you wanted to choose the path to peace. So forgive the path for being so small, but you got to renew your vows to it. And people don't. They say, I said it once. I wanted to be peaceful. And it's like, it's a process and you got to be devoted to it. You got to renew your vows.
So how often or is there a formula to...
Yeah, every time you're in pain, renew your vows. Every time you're disturbed, go back to being of a higher consciousness. Every time you're telling a ridiculously toxic story, creator, remind yourself to tell a better story, and it hurts for a reason. You're not supposed to be perpetuating that story. Remember, you choose the path of peace. Tell a really good story. Like, it has a reason for being and a purpose. And then now attribute the purpose and then follow up. Don't just make the intention, follow up with action and breath steps. Let it be easy. Take some breath steps and have some fun with it. And watch what happens just by playing with these concepts. And you know what? Playing with these concepts could be something as simple as just considering them. That could be considered how safe is that? To consider these ideas and see what happens to you when you're just thinking these ideas. Feel what's going on in your body. Feels pretty good, doesn't it? Trust that. More. That's positive reinforcement. Follow that. That's where you're going.
Yeah. Do you find that you have really, with your practice and all the people, you've really created an environment that is supportive, people that speak the same language? Do you find that people need that?
Well, absolutely. Honestly, with this whole therapeutic model is I know the world is therapeutic deficient and that we're always therapeutic minded. If this, and then we have an adversarial relationship and we have a disease and then we go to the doctor and the doctor fights the disease and we're just somebody who's housing this, and it's like, no, this is your experience. This is for you. This is for your spiritual growth. This is between you and you. You can outsource it as much as you want, but the real growth comes when you take accountability for it. And I think that's a real big thing
That's huge.
Well, it is huge because we live, again, so what I see is this language and everything that I've done with my community is I saw that it was missing. I saw that there wasn't out there. My work wasn't out there. Focusing on the solution wasn't out there to the degree that I've taken it to. People have known about positive psychology for years, but it's just a study until you start applying it. And so I've created all these psychotechnologies so that you can actually have a relationship and apply this and participate in these things. And that is so essential. And I know that I'm always going to have job security because I really don't see enough people doing it at the quality that I'm doing it. So I'm answering the call by being creative and innovative and creating this environment, using these words in the context the way I'm using them. And I see the neurological nutrition in that. I see the benefit for that rather than me dispensing toxicity, something adversarial. No, you should fight with that. No, there is a problem here. No, something is wrong. It's like,
that in and of itself is a podcast.
Right. It is.
It's
huge.
Is.
I know.
Yeah, that's a big topic.
Well, you're asking some great questions. And I know that I hear you trying to bring it down. And I do apologize for that. I do know
there's no apology necessary at all.
I would like to be able to,
be organically
bring me down, get me down to the nuts and bolts so that, if somebody's hearing this for the first time, they have something they can take away. I would love that.
Right. So to bring it down to just simple steps, be gentle on yourself.
Wow.
Right? First one.
Well, the first one actually is mindfulness, but mindfulness is being gentle with yourself. If you're not being gentle with yourself, then you're not being mindful. You have to understand that mindfulness is where it all starts. And if you're being mindful, you're being gentle with yourself. If you're not being gentle with yourself, you just lost mindfulness. So that's where they're in together. But it is, once you choose to be mindful, like you want to grow in awareness, then as a natural consequence, the very next step is to be gentle with yourself. Once you are hard with yourself, you just sacrifice being mindful. So it starts with mindfulness, and then being gentle with yourself allows for that.
Well, it starts with the choice.
Right. But that's the choice for mindfulness. Yeah. So the choice, and honestly, there are actually 5 steps before, stopping. There's a whole lot of things that you can do, and that's the role of meditation, of fasting, of resetting the system. Sometimes you could be mindful and you could be
Yeah.
I am so mindful right now. I'm so pissed. It's like, well, maybe you need to stop and be mindful of what happens in that stopping, But it goes on and on. But after mindfulness, then it is sanctification, where you are trusting that everything is happening for a reason, and you're unconditionally welcoming everything. And that's just the first 3 steps, but there's a whole bunch more.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. So
I love that you're prepared. What you got?
Trust that when...
I trust that I want to tell you you're a great host.
Oh, am I?
I'm enjoying this so much. You are such a great host. I love your questions, and thank you for being so kind to me and all of this work. And I love how well you're representing this. And it is an honor to sit here and be able to just receive any question that you possibly have.
Likewise.
I love it. I love this.
Likewise.
So I didn't mean you to put that down. What do you got?
No, so this idea of starting from your highest place and trusting that, you speak about being the solution, and starting from the highest place is being the solution.
Absolutely. And you aim for the most high. That's the same thing. You aim for the most high.
And that could be different at different points of your life, different points of time.
Depends on what you're facing.
It's what you're facing. So I wanted to review or really dive into this being part of the solution concept. And, most people think they are part of their solution. Most people think like they're doing pretty well. And when my personal belief, and it doesn't have to be your belief and it doesn't have to be anybody else's belief, is that I believe that we were sold the biggest lie.
Well, there are multiple lies, plural, multiple lies.
Sold in a big way forever and a day that...
So we can't trust knowledge that's given to us, so that we have to rely on our awareness. It has a purpose.
Right.
We are not allowed to rely on library books or trust the author or trust the studies, because we have to rely on our awareness. And we have to trust that we can grow in trust, which means that we're not allowed to trust ourselves because we want to grow in trust. If we think, I am so trustworthy, then you're lying to yourself, which means you're not going to be able to grow in trust until you get honest about what truly are shortcomings, meaning I'm not very gentle with myself. Okay, well, if you're not really gentle with yourself, how are you trusting yourself on other things when you're beating yourself up, compromising your functionality? You're not thinking clearly because you're hard on yourself. You're punishing yourself all the time. How are you able to trust yourself when you're behaving that way? It's fascinating.
So being part of your own solution just starts there. Starts there.
It does. It really does. Being gentle with yourself. That's it. I can tell you how much feet I get off of that one concept, especially when I'm meeting somebody for the first time. And it's not like I have to bring it up. They're bringing it up. They're being very hard on themselves. It's a thing. It's the real pandemic. We are so hard on ourselves. And it's not like we don't have reason to be hard on ourselves because we're squandering our power. And there's some consequences about squandering your power. And so maybe you should get to work and start learning how to wield your power, because there are consequences to squandering it, but you don't do it by pushing yourself. You're doing it by being gentle with yourself and going, you know what? I'm going to work on enhancing my power and wielding my power. And you'll know that you're doing it because you're being gentle with yourself, which means you're more optimal, which means you're actually doing it.
What is the byproduct, or what is the thing that you see happening when people do start to... Confidence,
peace, comfort, security. I mean, there's so much contentment. What peace? Let's talk about that. Because when we talk about, please just bring me peace, it's like, well, that's contentment. That means there's a sense that all is well in the world. All is well, always has been, and always will be. Now, I can tell you that, and it's true. I can tell you that. But when you do this kind of thing and you arrive at that conclusion yourself, that you're conceding to this idea that just emerges, like, wow, all is well, always has been, always will be. That's a really good thing. We call that connection. Now you're having, because you can connect to anything, but when you can connect to the sacred, oh, wow, when you're connecting to the mystery and the sacred, and they're one and the same, and you know that all is well, even though you don't understand, Wow.
I've heard you mention several times that it's happening for me,
Mm-hmm.
not to me.
Mm-hmm.
That I think, I mean, there's a lot of things that you say that I really take to heart and really live, but that particular one, it's happening for me, not to me.
I love that one, but I got to tell you, I didn't make that one up. That's one of all the things that I create. That one gets a lot of love, but whoever did create it, like hats off. It's brilliant.
It's
It
brilliant
really is.
because it really truly puts you out of the mindset. And not everybody is ready to be out of that mindset. And there's integrity and all that. And
Well, you
there's
get a
trust.
consequence for that too.
And there's consequences for that. But to really go through life, it is like the most, everybody has a choice, right? Everybody has a choice. And not only do you have a choice, but you get to decide what that choice is every step of the way. And there are consequences to that. So everything happens for me, not to me, that help me. All the choices that I've made, all the choices that I continue to make, help me to decide what that next thing is going to be based on whatever the outcome is.
Beautiful.
So I'm keenly aware of the people out there, listeners, viewers, whoever, people that I speak to every day, and the overwhelm that people are in, whether they are aware or not.
Bingo.
And because overwhelm can come in seen, unseen, conscious, unconscious, like all the things, it's my intention here is I don't want this information to be an overwhelm for people. I want it to be something that ignites them, that gets them to start looking and asking, and then being that
Let me hit that.
force within themselves, for themselves.
So how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time?
Yeah.
They have to take responsibility for how much input they're taking in. When you get a book and it's 1,000 pages long, you don't need to read it in one sitting. So if this is becoming overwhelming, it really is on them to have hit pause at the right and perfect time and then return to it. And if they're not doing that, what good is what we're doing? Because ultimately it's on them, and they have to be empowered, and they have to trust their metabolic capacity. And as they start getting overwhelmed, like, I just want to get through with this episode, it's like, that's an agenda. That's going to have a consequence, because that's like a prejudice. Like, it's going to be good if I get through this episode. No, it's going to be good when it's optimal. And if you're in overwhelm, you're suboptimal. So you think it's better to watch this thing and get it done while you're suboptimal, rather than going, I'm going to watch this thing when I'm in an optimal place, and let's see how long I stay in an optimal place. Maybe you'll only stay there 5 minutes before you need a break. And that's perfect, but honor that, respect that, because it's on you not to overwhelm yourself, not me.
May I ask you a question that
Please.
may be a little personal?
Please.
But how did you get to these things? Like, I know there's people that...
I promise you, it really is radical trust. I'm not saying that because I'm trying to promote this idea, this concept, but
No,
it really
what
is.
drove you to that radical trust? What
Else was I
you-
supposed to trust? I mean, seriously, if I don't trust in the wisdom of life, the integrity of life, then I have to manifest that within me, and I have to be more trustworthy than the wisdom that's inherent in life. And so I think I'm conceding to the fact that life and what's happening is far more trustworthy than I'll ever be, even on my last day.
Even if I don't like it.
Well, no, but I have to trust it. If I don't like it, it's happening for a reason. So we're not only even if I don't like it, especially when I don't like it, because that's when you start gaining, again, dominion. You start rising above it. When you start trusting something, no matter how bad something is and you're trusting it, you're hitting it optimally. And so now you can handle it like a boss. If you're not trusting it, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, but you're just making things worse, like turning pain into suffering. You know, there's a reason why those concepts are out there. Everybody experiences pain, but if your relationship to it is god awful, now you've voluntarily went into suffering, even if it's autonomic. You know, but if you're absent, if you're void of trust, if you're void of faith, life is going to tell you you're void of faith. Just like if you have dry mouth, life's going to tell you you're void of water. If you are void of trust, you're going to know it. And now you have to trust that, wow, I'm void of trust.
Yeah.
Well, that means you have to work on trust. Now you're not going to be so arrogant, are you? Because you're having to work on trust rather than knowledge, rather than I know, rather than some kind of pretentious energy that is keeping you from your greater self. Yeah.
Do you view every single person that comes into your office or that you work with, not work with, whatever, as having that potential for greater them?
Oh, absolutely they do. And honestly, I really, really love the people that piss me off and bring out what I would say is the worst in me, where I'm like reactive and I
Yeah.
don't trust and like
Yeah.
they leave and I need like a lot of breaths and
Yeah.
like, whew. To me, I know there's a growth spurt in that for me. Like working with you, I can do it with my eyes closed. And I do. It's like I can do this so effortlessly. You leave and I'm still doing the backflip. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
the backstroke. It's like there isn't a session that you and I do that's not like oh, you know, even after you leave, the
Same.
ripple of our session, you know.
Same.
But there are people that, you know, I turn around and I just want to like, you know, and I trust that. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so I'm supposed to develop my proficiency
Yeah.
and I also have to trust in the integrity of their process. And that includes my process and whatever levels of proficiency I can attain in this lifetime.
So there's a lot of people that come with questions that I see, and I'm sure that you see, that always, they want that formula. They want that how to and when to and how much to and all of that. So what would you say, for those people that kind of like need...
Well, I can tell you what's time tested is the Succession 7, and we went into it. So let's just hit it real quickly. It starts with mindfulness, and we said that. Mindfulness is number one. Number two, ease. Let it be easy. That's where you're being gentle with yourself. You're being easy with yourself. Number three, sanctification. It's happening for you, not to you. And you really want to unconditionally welcome everything and tell a great story. That's what sanctifying is. Not just welcoming it unconditionally, but telling the greatest story as to why it's showing up and how it's benefiting you and how it's supporting your growth. Then it's from those points, everything else just flows organically. If you are really sanctifying, then you're grateful truly organically because you know it's happening for you. And if you really are participating in that it's happening for you and you're not bullshitting yourself or telling yourself that it's happening for you, you're going to organically be grateful once you really participate well in sanctification. So there, those first four: mindfulness, ease, sanctification, gratefulness. Now, what happens when you're grateful? We use the term happy, but I said before, it's about contentment when all is well. It's like there's a satiation. You're satisfied. That form of happiness. That's the fifth. Now, when you're happy, what do we find also? Kindness. We say there is no way to kindness. Kindness is the way. Well, I propose that for kindness, you probably want to have your happiness. You want to be grateful. You want to sanctify. You want to be gentle with yourself. And then you want to be mindful. And so once you're in that kindness, which is the sixth step in the Succession 7, the last one, which is the best, is these brand new acts of kindness, creativity. And you're the solution. You're coming. This is what I did. I created all these psychotechnologies to be the solution as my act of kindness for humanity. I didn't just do it for myself, though I do like the notoriety, but obviously I don't like it that much. This work is amazing, and I've been playing so relatively small, but that's because I'm so busy doing the next thing rather than promoting the last thing. I'm constantly doing this. I'm constantly into the what's new. That newness and creativity, which is the seventh step, is the ultimate place to get to. But you don't want to just go there without being in a place of genuine kindness, of giving back and serving to others because you're so content, happy, because you're so grateful, because you're sanctifying, you're being gentle with yourself, and you're choosing to be mindful. So that Succession 7 is, I get so much out of that, and I have gotten so much out of that, and that is a gift that's going to keep on giving long after I'm gone. And again, the world being the way it is, that's not the most disseminated information yet that's out there, but it's it, man. And if you really want to get to like sanctification, you want to get really good with that, because that's the one that trips up people. We have 7 little steps for that. We're not going to go into that here. And then even before mindfulness, there's like 5 steps before you even get to like mindfulness. Like, how do you even prepare for stopping? Do you just stop? So there's a bunch of things, but I think that for me, creating these kinds of psychotechnologies and being able to answer that question so clearly and know that there really isn't anything more succinct and better for the newbie than the Succession 7. That's just it. That just really is it. So I appreciate the question.
Yeah. Well, because that really truly is, it's a thing. It's a lot of people. That's where a lot of people are at. And it's for whatever programming, for whatever need people have for having to go to somebody else, or rather than getting in touch with themselves. And it's even for somebody who is in touch with themselves, as well as a lot of people are, that
Mhm.
I am, it still can be a challenge. There are like certain areas where you still not fully trusting, and there's a reason for
That's
that.
why it's coming.
That's
So
why it's
that you can
coming,
develop
so
a
that you can
trust.
develop. Right, right,
Exactly.
right,
Yeah. And then when you
right.
trust that, now you're not compromising your functionality. Now you're meeting life like a boss,
Yeah,
meeting the mystery,
yeah,
instead of like, oh, I want to meet security like a boss. I want to
yeah.
meet something that I can rely on like a boss. You know, it's like,
So I
that's
also
conditional.
wanted to share something with you,
Please.
and the listeners, that has, because it's been a very transformational, I don't know, year,
Time. Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
whatever, is that the thing that matters above everything else is me feeling good, right? So feeling good about where I am, feeling good about the truth that I'm stepping into and speaking out to, feeling good and empowered for me personally has also been about doing something that used to be uncomfortable, but now it's less uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and that is empowering,
Of
and
course.
that makes me like feel so good. So I wanted to also like touch on that a little bit, because that is a huge empowerment piece, where things are happening for me, not to me,
Mm-hmm.
that fuels this desire to make that choice again and
I
again.
love that you said all of that. So it's still positive reinforcement. I mean, it is.
It's
It's giving
right.
yourself a yummy treat, and it's like there's an old saying: catch yourself doing something really well. Like instead of like being critical, like really catch yourself. Like
Right.
monitor your improvements. You want to have what I call momentum maintenance.
Yeah.
Focus on all the areas where you've improved. Even if
Yeah.
you go, wow, I'm not anywhere where I want to be, but I'm a lot further than where I
There
was.
was right.
And so that positive reinforcement is, believe it or not, the wind beneath your wings, and you're putting your own wind under your own wings, and that's keep going, Marina. You're doing this. You got this.
Well, and that's what the thing that I would love to share with the listeners and the viewers is that, it's not up to anyone else. It's not anybody else's job. It's not our politicians. It's not our religious leaders. It's not our parents. It's not our partner. It's not anybody.
Let me hit that. You're not allowed to delegate. See, people are acting as if they're allowed to delegate to doctors and politicians to take care of themselves.
You're really
At the
truly
end
not.
of life, when you're done, it's not going to be how much did you get your politicians to do and what was the best doctor you ever had. Congratulations, you got the best doctor in the land. This is about empowerment. This is about taking full responsibility for your spiritual essence, for really what you came in with without form. When you came in as a baby, you're given a spiritual contract, whether you like it or not. Sorry, you are. You're only going to be so tall. You're only going to be so successful. And I'm so sorry about that. You could play within a wiggle room, and there is a wiggle room, but I'm sorry, you're still within some kind of limits here. Thrive within those limits, because there's so much thriving that you're not touching. And that's the point. And believe me, you're getting a consequence by not focusing on your thriving or your greaterness, your lighterness, your highness. And when you stop advocating for yourself, and you start advocating for something significantly bigger than you, which, by the way, will eventually become you. It's just not you right now. It's outside of you. There's no road to authenticity that stands inside yourself. It's out there, believe it or not. And when you could go outside yourself to this big, big infinite world, you're doing the best you can for you, because you're not keeping yourself trapped inside your own experience where you're a dog chasing your own tail, wondering why you're suffering so much, because you're making it about you, which is the greatest thing. We use terms like narcissists because it's painful. But the idea is, when I always say you're not that sexy of a reference point, and then I go, hell, I'm not that sexy of a reference point. But it's true. If your reference point can be something bigger than you, whether it's your community, talk about kindness, things that you could do for others, even your greater you, even the humble you, the mystery you, the unborn you, the unaware you, and you can start advocating for the mystery and not for what you know so well, Miss Arrogance, then you are really doing your absolute best. And I want to bring people to that inquiry. I don't want them just chasing their own tail going, why am I suffering so much? You're making it about you, and it needs to be about greater you, which is not you, believe it or not. You're not even close. You're giving birth to yourself, and you don't even know who you're going to be. So why do you keep referencing you when you're going to pass the baton on to greater you? So there's my little, what do you want to call that? Like, what's a great term when, oh, I wish I had a really good word for that, where, dissertation. Let's go with that.
That's amazing. That whole concept is really, truly amazing. And it's, for people that may not be there quite yet, just, you don't have to know to maybe have the inquiry that there is that part of you that hasn't even emerged yet.
Imagine playing with that.
Just playing with that.
And even in the consideration of playing with that.
Yeah.
That's enough.
That is
Are you willing to consider the possibility that maybe there's a greater you? Now think about how safe that is. Are you willing to consider the possibility that maybe there's a greater you in you that you've never met or unleashed or let run wild for it to be revealed to you? Now, if you say no to that, wow, you're not willing to consider the possibility that maybe? Wow. Can't help you. I don't know what you're doing here.
Talk about radical trust.
Right, exactly. And that's a pre-screened audience, right? So when people are unwilling to, consider the possibility that maybe, I'm like, wow, look at how that's protecting me. They want nothing to do with me because I'm saying all this crazy stuff. I'm sorry, I'm not saying the stuff that your box knows so familiar while you're trying to grow within that box. Can't do it,
I love that.
Welcome to the mystery. Thank you for this. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I appreciate the space you held for me to kind of shine, and you let me shine, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.